Hey guys, it's your boy Davian. Welcome to another episode of Consciouz TV. Make sure you guys comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Hit all when you do so that you can stay up with all of my latest uploads. And you can also donate to the show at my Cash App, which is $ConsciouzTV, and or my PayPal at paypal.me/ConsciouzTV. And you can also email me at consciouztv@gmail.com. You guys already know what we're here to discuss. Let's get into it. Before we get any deeper into this commentary, I definitely want to give a shout out to Adrian Williams. Thank you so much for your Cash App donation. I really appreciate it. You guys know that I don't do Super Chat because I don't even go live enough to benefit from Super Chat. So for all of you guys who like to still send me a token of appreciation or still donate to the show and just still bless me, I really appreciate the support. It just really means a lot to me that you guys love the content and love my presence on YouTube. So God bless you, Adrian. I hope that you stay entertained, stay informed, and continue to enjoy the commentary. Now on to the subject at hand. One of my subscribers asked me, could I speak about the recent Dave Chapelle comedy stand-up skit, and also could I speak to the Lil Nas and Kevin Hart interview that I believe Charlamagne was also a part of. So I don't know a whole lot about this situation with Lil Nas X and Kevin Hart. I have definitely seen the snippets, but I have not seen the entire conversation in its entirety. But I will speak to the part of it that I saw that also happens to be in alignment with the controversy surrounding the conversation, because as you guys know, HBO is producing a new show that's centered around the black barbershop experience, where I guess guys can be guys and they touch on various cultural and societal subjects and have that conversation in a very honest way, which is very interesting because the barbershop oftentimes is a very intimidating place for a lot of gay black men who oftentimes feel uncomfortable in these very hyper masculine spaces because a lot of toxicity really manifests in the barbershop experience. All of the misogynistic conversations around women, the objectification of women in the barbershop because it is such a man cave. So a gay black man can oftentimes feel completely out of place. Now, as you guys can see, I don't have to worry about the barbershop experience. But during my high school years, I certainly did have to go to the barbershop, and sometimes when I was in a more youthful urban barbershop, yes, it was very oftentimes a very alien, foreign experience. Now, the part that the public is reacting to as it relates to this commentary or conversation between Lil Nas X and Kevin Hart is Lil Nas coming out came up in the conversation. He was asked what kind of made him do it. Lil Nas practically said just because he felt it was the time and it was really important, considering that so many black same-sex, same-attracted males just don't have that level of representation. That was really important because oftentimes we don't see a Lil Nas X. Lil Nas X is in a very urban career field as a rapper slash singer, and it's really important for gay black men, for the Lil Nas X's of America to definitely see that level of representation, because oftentimes the representation that most of us have is white, and it's very flamboyant, it's very hyper feminine, it's very charismatic. So seeing this representation of sexual orientation, not only is it good for dark skinned gay black men, but it's also good for the more straight presenting gay men as well, who oftentimes do not get plastered up as the poster child as Hollywood-ish related. So I thought that representation was really necessary. And then Kevin Hart interjected and kind of spoke over Lil Nas and was just like,
you know what? What's the big deal? 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 What's the big deal?
And Kevin Hart got his ass handed to him, and rightfully so. I think Kevin Hart is one of those people who doesn't really understand that the public is not checking for him because he's really a trash nigga. This is a man who has been caught in multiple affairs with his wife, from sex tapes to threesomes to orgies to limousine making out sessions while all being married, coupled with the controversy of how he got his new wife, who apparently and allegedly was the side piece in his first marriage, coupled with the fact that Kevin Hart has made some very trash comments about the LGBT community, and he's just kind of seemed like a really immature, uninformed Negro. Now, when Kevin Hart started doing the most in the interview, I really didn't take it as Kevin Hart was dumb or ignorant or he was trying to come off as naive. I think because of the whole Oscar experience and him having to step down because of old tweets that came up about how he would beat his son in the head or hit his son in the head with a playpen if he acted like a girl or came out as gay. I think Kevin Hart has tried to be aware of that controversy, and he's trying to take on this being gay is not a big deal. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. What's the big deal? What's the big deal? What's the big deal? And that response is coming from him trying too hard to look like being gay doesn't matter, because for someone like him, it completely appears based upon things he said in the past that he is somebody who has cared a little bit too much how people identify sexually, and Kevin Hart just didn't reel it in. He was kind of over dramatizing his neutrality on the issue, and it just completely was lost in translation. It didn't translate well to the public, and the public took it as Kevin Hart coming off as dumb or acting really stupid. He's trying to literally do some damage control based upon his reputation being skewed for being a anti-queer comedian. People like Kevin Hart and Charlamagne the God are not the people to facilitate these type of conversations and to have a meaningful conversation on a subject matter like this with someone like Lil Nas. But at the same time, considering the context of the show being in a barbershop, Kevin Hart and Charlamagne the God are the type of niggas who you would find cutting your fucking hair. So it made perfect goddamn sense. But I did feel like it was a missed opportunity to have maybe some more progressive, intellectual, grounded black men in that discussion who really could have milked that discussion for what it was worth and really helped Lil Nas to articulate his experience and to touch on and emphasize some of the meaningfulness of why it means so much for Lil Nas to really come forward and to come out of the closet and to be somebody who's practicing authenticity, especially within a culture where so many black men and so many queer black individuals, both trans and gay and lesbian, are killing themselves, are hurting themselves, and who are being murdered as well. So I'm glad that Lil Nas checked your ass and let you know, nigga, shut the fuck up. Now on to Dave Chapelle. Dave Chapelle has been out of the limelight for a very long time. Obviously he came back with a vengeance. I have a very unique taste in comedy, so I'm just not the person that always find everything funny. It takes a lot for you to get me to cackle, and for a long time Dave Chapelle just didn't do that. It wasn't until the latter part of his work that I really began to appreciate his style of comedy, and he kind of reminds me of Chris Rock, who is also one of my favorite black comedians, because Chris Rock, to me personally, knows how to use things that are really relevant to the people and find a way to make them completely comedic and to add that comedic relief to very tough conversations. I saw bits and pieces of the comedy special and I liked it. So for me, I was one of those gay men who was not offended remotely. I completely understand the context of Dave Chappelle's argument or his rebuttal or his inquisitiveness to the producer that he was speaking to in the skit when he said, why can't he use the F word? And the woman said to him, because, well, Dave, you're not gay. And Dave said, well, I can openly use the word nigga, and I'm also not a nigga. Simply put, Dave Chapelle had a point as a heterosexual, cisgender, privileged black male. I get it. That's easily refuted just because of privilege. You know, nigga has been something that black people have culturalized and sensationalized. That hasn't been the same for the F word in the queer community. That has not been a term that has been commercialized. That has not been a term that has been well packaged. That term is still looked at and oftentimes is used as a slur. And that term coming out of a heterosexual person's mouth is going to be interpreted as a slur. The term nigga is all in our music. It's all in our personal lingo. What's up, nigga? Hey, nigga, that's my nigga. The term nigga and the term fag or faggot is not on the same spectrum, just because as a culture we have not sensationalized the term fag the way that we've sensationalized the term nigga. But on the surface, you know, it was cute, and Dave Chapelle tried it. But you know what? I honestly prefer those type of things because I want straight people to speak their minds, so that it gives us as queer people the opportunity to inform and to educate and to have these conversations. For me, as a queer person who's finally living in a society that's attempting to be very inclusive, I'm very open to straight people having questions. I'm not open to the assumptions. I am not open to the judgments. I am not open to straight people acting like they are the goddamn experts on sexuality and homosexuality. I am very compassionate and very understanding toward heterosexual people who have curiosities and they don't understand certain things, and they don't mind saying that, and they don't mind positioning themselves to have a conversation about those things, especially with the people who those things pertain to. So comedy as well is not a space that I enter to with any type of a prejudice in my spirit. So I personally have never been offended by comedy, no matter what the comedy is about. I look at comedy the same way that I look at any other performance art, which is that it is a artistic expression. It is a art form. Just like I would listen to music expecting to hear somebody sing, I would listen to a producer's beat expecting to hear sounds. I go into comedy and I personally expect to hear obscene things. I expect to hear things that traditionally make us uncomfortable, and have that comedian be an alchemist and transmute a subject or a topic that's so uncomfortable and make it light and humanize it. And there's honestly something so relieving emotionally and mentally about having a heavy topic kind of be made into this petty nucleus that allows you to sit back and be like, wow, do we really take this stuff seriously? Because he made this look really fucking dumb, and in fact it is really fucking stupid that we get so carried away. Like, I love that, because oftentimes the conversations are too heavy for way too long, and there's not a check and balance. So I feel like comedy can act as a check and balance no matter where the culture is. I feel like comedy is really, really, really fucking important. I don't believe that censorship at all should exist. Me, I'm not one of those super serious gays that is just willing to freak out at every goddamn turn about everything, and I damn sure would never walk into a comedy house as a serious person. If I'm going to look at a comedy special, if I'm going to see any comedian, I am going in there without my ego. I'm going in there expecting to hear everybody dragged, from the gays to the girls to the boys to the blacks to the whites to the Mexicans to the immigrants to the president, to every goddamn body and any goddamn body. I am going in expecting to hear a drag fest. So that's just me personally. Yes, appreciate comedy. I also think that we live in a time where, because we don't also understand how to judge comedians, that sometimes we don't know how to separate them from their art form, because a lot of comedians will say that being a comedian is who they are. So even when they are speaking outside of a comedy stage, whether it be in an interview, like in a radio interview, or like when they're speaking as a person to things that are being asked of, oftentimes we will judge the comedian for their beliefs. And I feel like if comedians want to separate their personas from their persons, then they have to start making a distinction between their persona and their performance self and who they are as Dave Chapelle. So if Dave Chapelle brings Dave Chapelle from off the comedy stage onto a regular platform, being himself, speaking to the issue of sexuality, I'm not sure what would come out of his mouth. I'm curious to know off script how Dave feels about the LGBT community, how he feels about a lot of things that he gets up on his stage and drags and makes fun of. And I oftentimes also feel like comedians don't always identify with the things that they drag on stage. I know even as a YouTuber, when I'm doing hot topics, I'm dragging people who I'm not even fucking invested in. It's literally for the sake of entertaining my audience. It's literally for the sake of just being lighthearted and making people laugh and wanting people to have some type of a relief when they come on to my channel. They're coming home from a hard day's work. And so comedians make it their job to make us feel better by any means necessary, even if it means being completely absurd and ridiculous. So you know, that is what it is. But comedians, if you don't make that distinction, baby, we're just going to assume that that shit you said on stage is what you mean as a human being, what you mean as a man and a woman. So if y'all want to kind of balance the narrative by, you know, distinguishing y'all persona from y'all real life human selves, then y'all have to make sure that y'all conversations are real, that they are meaningful when y'all have to engage in radio interview or in television interviews about things that are going on in our society, so that we know that there's a difference between Dave Chapelle as a performer and Dave Chapelle as a man, and we would critique Dave Chapelle as a man accordingly. But I feel like you can't necessarily judge a comedian based upon his work alone. I need the performer to turn into a person and to then speak to a subject for me to then really get into how I feel personally about that individual. But I don't feel like you can look at a person's body of work and judge them accordingly. And we don't do that with anybody else. No, we don't even do this with producers in movies. You know, plenty of these goddamn movie producers and writers write movies about rape, slavery, incest, murder, violence, and we don't then go and critique the writers and judge them as a person based upon what they do artistically. We don't do that with a lot of singers and rappers either. These people sing about sex, they sing about promiscuity. A lot of our rappers talk about pushing kilos and pushing drugs and bang bang shoot them up, and we don't always necessarily judge the rapper based upon his performance and his artistry, because we tend to allow artistic people to be artistic in their fields. I feel like comedians deserve that same balance. So you guys tell me what you guys think below. Rate, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Don't forget to hit all when you do. And once again, you can also donate to the show at my Cash App, which is $ConsciousTV, and or you can PayPal me at paypal.me/ConsciousTV, and you can email me at conscioustv@gmail.com. I will catch you guys on the flip side. One.